Hello, everybody. Welcome to the ChatGPT mini workshop. My goal for each of you today is to take some of the questions and fear out of using ChatGPT and to see some of the possibilities of how you can use it as a writer for the various parts of your writing journey, from the brainstorming, the researching, the marketing even. And so today we are going to start with a little bit of reflection just to see where you are at with your ChatGPT journey. And then we'll dive into a little bit about it and then into kind of actually doing it together, seeing the different types of things we can use it for. And really, my encouragement to you throughout this workshop is just to know that the sky's the limit. And it can be a great tool, almost like a brain outside your head that is not a person, but that you can brainstorm ideas off of, ask questions. It's a very fast research tool. So that's a lot of its power too, is that it can just give you the information very quickly in the way that you want it, versus when you Google something, it often comes back and you kind of have to sort through everything. But with ChatGPT, you can almost have a conversation and just get the information that you need. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 minutes, and I'd like you to write down and just brainstorm around these 3 questions. Number 1, how do you feel about AI or ChatGPT? Number 2, how are you currently using AI or ChatGPT? And then number 3, what are some of the possibilities you've already thought of how you might use ChatGPT? So go ahead and pause the video and write down your thoughts, and we'll be right back in 3 minutes. Okay, so welcome back. I hope that that was helpful to kind of see where you are with ChatGPT as we embark on this journey. So Lisa, I'd love to hear from you what bubbled up.
I said I'm not really 100% comfortable with it, with the idea of it. But it could be a good tool
Mhm.
if you learn how to use it properly. I am not really currently using it. I do have Grammarly, so in a sense, I'm using that part of it. More than likely, when I search the internet for things, I'm probably using, some sort of AI bot. Um, Possibilities of how I would use it. I've seen a couple really fun reels for people to introduce their books using the action, the music, the characters. I've seen some other people pay for some artistry with using AI and developing covers for their books. So there's different things like that, but probably more for searching or brainstorming. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a good point too. And I'll kind of go into notes now and then we'll go get into actually using it. So with ChatGPT and AI, they're not going anywhere. So I think as writers and creatives, it's really valuable to stay open-minded and just play with it, even just a little bit, so that we can see the possibilities, and continuing to talk to other people too. How are they using it? I know I've been inspired by different entrepreneurs, seeing how they're using it to create a whole social media calendar, create social video ideas, all of that. But as we approach ChatGPT, 2 things to kind of keep in mind. The first one is that we don't want it to do the writing for us. There are quite a few platforms that will penalize AI writing. Even Google, they recently shut down a whole bunch of blogs that were just AI content copied and pasted. Um, but the second thing is that even though we don't want it to do the writing for us, it can absolutely be a great place to brainstorm research and strategy. So let's go ahead and dive in. And as we dive in, I'd like for you to think of a book topic, not necessarily your current work in progress. And it could even be just a fake book project idea. But go ahead and think of a book idea and then put it in the chat. And then my book idea will be writing a book on how to use ChatGPT for writers, just because that's fun to go extra meta. And then beginning editing for new writers. I love that. So let me go ahead and share my ChatGPT screen. Let me know if you can see that. Great. And the nice thing with ChatGPT is it will save your different searches that you have. I have the paid one, but I believe it will save them even in the free one. And a few things to note when you get into ChatGPT. The free version is a 3.5, which is great for everyday tasks, and that's more like text to text based. ChatGPT 4 is a higher level, has more data, like it looks at more data. Okay, so let's see. This little toolbar is in the way, so let me actually just make this a little smaller. There we go. And the way that it works, if you haven't used it yet, is you put a message here into ChatGPT. It's called a prompt, and then it will spit a response out to you. When you're doing a prompt, you want to be as specific as possible. You can even tell it, write in active voice. You can even say, here's an example of what I want, and give it an example so it can spit out like the same format, the same tone, all of that. But for example, in the brainstorming, let's take Lisa's. What was it again? It was how to, I can't see the chat. Do you want to just unmute and say what it was again?
Beginning editing for new writers.
Okay. So I'm going to give it that. And it's so fast. That's why it's really fun to play with it, because it's amazing just how fast it is. And there you go. So this could literally be an outline for a book: introduction to editing, the basics, developing an editing mindset. It has some great points here. So even if you're not following the exact thing, using this as an outline or a brainstorming tool can really help you expand your perspective, see key things you've missed, and all of that. So yeah, and then once you have kind of your brainstorming, you could even brainstorm around it. So what are the top editing questions writers ask? And here will actually give you like questions that are common. And so having those two things would be a great way to make sure your book is actually answering those questions. And then the top questions are great for content. If you were doing like a blog, if you were doing a quick social post, all of that, especially if you had actually editing services, you could use this and then show that you're an expert and promote it. You can even, like, I know some of you might be writing historical fiction, so you could even ask it questions, tell me what daily life was like in Israel back in the, let's say, the 400s. And it'll give you different things to consider and what life could have looked like. Okay, so now we have kind of our brainstorming, and there's lots of ways you can brainstorm. The next one would be writing. You could either take your outline and then start writing it on your own, or you could do a mixture of it where you're writing it on your own, but then you could also ask it. And I like talking back and forth to it. I don't know why it feels more personal. So I always say, like, I love the outline you gave me. Can you please write this section for me? And then again, using active voice and making the tone personal, warm, and friendly for the beginning writer. And it's when you're having it do some of the writing as a starting point, it can be very tempting to just use big chunks. But I really encourage you. This would be something where like I would read it over, but then I'd set it aside and just in my own words kind of follow the flow of ideas or even the tone. Because it is very easy to just, oh, it already said it so good, I'm just going to use it. But we want it to be our own words. So even, and then thinking too about adding your personal stories. So, for example, Lisa, with your editing book, you could start actually with a story of you didn't know what you didn't know and how you just didn't even know what to edit. Like you'd write something and it would just sit there and you're like, I don't even know what this needs. And so how you wrote this book to really equip writers so that they don't have to sit there not knowing what to write. And then let's see, the next thing that we can also use ChatGPT for, and this list is not exhaustive, it's just how I think about kind of the writing process and different pieces. But the next thing you can do is market research, which we did a little bit of, where like, what are the top questions they're asking? Write an outline about it. But even for market research, you could ask it, give me 20 book titles for this book that are sure to grab beginning writers' attention and help sell copies. And we can actually do book titles with subtitles. I love using ChatGPT for like blog titles, social media hooks, that kind of thing. I like this, the edit effect. A beginner's guide to crafting your best work. Some of these are really good. I try to stay away from words like unleashed, because there's certain words ChatGPT uses quite a bit. What are the top words ChatGPT uses that makes people be able to tell something is AI written? So here you can kind of give you a list, but that's one that I would also do on Google and just be aware, especially if you're in the writing phase, of what it's using. Something else you can have it do is please write the back cover copy for this book. And you can ask it to do multiple versions. Give me 3 versions. And it has some great, like the way I think of ChatGPT is clay. It's giving you a bunch of clay, and then you can sit with it, you can highlight it, print it, and decide what you use and what you don't use. I like craft your best work. Harness it uses a lot. Yeah. Okay, so then we have our writing, our market research, and then something a lot of writers don't think about ChatGPT for is marketing. So if you feel stuck, like I don't know what I want to do in my book launch, or I don't know how to build my audience, you can ask ChatGPT and it can get ideas percolating. So I have now finished the book and I need to build my audience. What are the fastest and best 10 ways to do this? And so here, this first response that it's giving me, it's very high level. It's like, okay, be on social media related to your book, on your website, email marketing. But now if I wanted to start digging into the strategy, I could say, please give me, you could either do like, give me daily content focuses for my social media. Let's see, please give me a monthly social media plan to promote my book with themed days of the week. So I can do this. And then I'm literally giving it back what it told me. And what I might even do is I would pick probably my favorite platforms. Like I'm not really on Twitter. Facebook and Instagram are really my favorite ones. I am on LinkedIn, but I'm just gonna want it to be a little more specific. So I'm gonna simplify that. And it will literally give you a plan that you just have to follow. So marketing can feel overwhelming and complicated, but this will just can give you like buckets to use. And then, so it has my categories for me, but I could ask it to even be more specific. So author spotlight, please give me 12 examples of what types of stories or content I can create for this category. And so you can just keep kind of going layer by layer and get more and more specific ideas and support. And these are actually really good because it's highlighting all these different areas. So then people have all those areas to connect with you. Okay, 2 more areas to talk about. And you can also use it kind of similarly for your website, like give me an about, here's some information about me, write it about. You could even say, I want to create a lead magnet for my book. Give me a list of 15 ideas. And a lead magnet is something free that you give away, and then you get their email address in return. So here's different things that you could give away for free and then get their email. And like the reading list recommendations, that's super easy to create. And then you'd be getting emails. An author Q&A session, that's also pretty low effort. Yeah. And then the 2 other areas that came to mind as I think about the writing process, one is media. So like a pitch sheet or a PR speaking sheet. And so that's something you can also use ChatGPT to start fleshing out. It's like I need a speaker one sheet to get speaking gigs that promote this book. And you write it for me and include all necessary information. And it'll live. I have a client where they needed a statement of faith for their nonprofit. And so she literally came to ChatGPT and like put in what they were looking for, and it gave it to her. And for her, because she's not wanting it to be published, it's not on her blog, she actually used it word for word because it worked for what she was looking for. And then she also did a theology of suffering in ChatGPT that she put enough detail in that it gave her back exactly what she needed. And then here, kind of again, going that deeper layer would be, this is great. Can you give me 10 specific speaking topics that would interest writers and get me paid speaking gigs? And even these titles are pretty good, like The Art of Plotting, Idea to Bestseller, Editing Like a Pro. I was at a conference actually where they had an editor speak and she gave the pet peeves of editors. That was her talk. So she went over like 10 things of that to avoid. And then I need a release packet / media kit for my book. Can you outline one for me so I know what to include? And it'll give you all of those things. And you could do the same for a pitch sheet. Just make sure you don't miss anything in your pitch sheet. So there you have it, a few ways to kind of use ChatGPT as you're writing and editing. Lisa, any questions or observations bubbling up?
It's fascinating. I had no idea you could do all of this with that. The marketing tools are really interesting to me at the moment, simply because that's in my future, I
Yeah.
hope. Mm.
And even now, like if you can start posting or doing, gathering emails, like those are amazing things to start now if you can.
Website first.
Yeah. Well, no, the email list would be the most important.
Okay.
Because the website is more like a home base where people can go to learn about you or if you have other offers. But if you can get people on your newsletter, you have direct access to say, like, my book's coming out here. I have this speaking thing. Like, there's people who are already like promoting their books and making a profit with just an email list. Maybe that's the next workshop.
Probably. Yeah, I never thought about using it to write back cover copy,
Hmm.
because that's, a book blurb and back cover copy are really hard.
They are. Yeah. And I wouldn't necessarily take what it spits out, but you can ask
Right.
to give you like, what are 5 different hooks for my back cover copy? Or yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, good. That was my goal, was to give you kind of access to the possibilities and just, I think those layers, I think it's easy sometimes to just do the first one and be like, oh, that's great. But then realizing you can actually ask it to go deeper and be more specific. I know when I learned that, it was a huge eye opener of, oh, I can actually have it give me more specific ideas, especially for marketing, is really helpful. Yeah. Any final questions? No? Okay, I hope you all enjoyed the workshop. Thank you so much for joining me.